people want to change their lives, but in one big sweep. They want really grand change, but more often, change comes from little consistent actions. Baby steps that you take regularly turn into those really big changes. And in this video, I want to talk about some things that you can practice in those consistent, small ways that will lead to radical change. Have a year focused on small wins, not big wins. This is for anyone who feels like they are not capable of achieving goals. People who feel like they can't stick to anything, who don't have faith in themselves. Focus on a year of small wins. I'm a believer that the more promises to yourself that you keep, the more promises to yourself that you keep. It's a cycle. Charles Duhigg, the author of The Power of Habit, wrote, bear with me, small wins fuel transformative changes by leveraging tiny advantages into patterns that convince people that bigger achievements are within reach. Basically, the more small wins that you tick off, that you achieve, the more confidence you have that you can achieve bigger wins. So this year, instead of setting grand goals to go on this huge health journey, set a goal to practice movement 1 time a week in any way, shape, or form. Build up your confidence by setting the bar low for yourself. A company called Ultra Working have almost like this virtual Pomodoro club where all these people get together and they do Pomodoros together. They set specific goals for each Pomodoro. The way that they have it set up is that after 3 Pomodoros, if you haven't achieve the goals that you've set, they ask you specifically to intentionally set lower goals for yourself that are highly achievable to boost your confidence. If you've gone for 3 years in a row, or even just 1 year where you haven't found yourself achieving your goals, start setting the bar lower for yourself. Small wins like journal once a month. Meditate for 5 minutes on Sunday. Go for a walk once a week. The purpose of this isn't necessarily to tick off those things, although they definitely should be goals that you're actually attached to, that you actually see as valuable, because otherwise you're never going to achieve them. But the purpose is to show yourself that you can achieve the things that you set out to do. Essentially, this is a practice to shift your mindset. Move away from unhealthy crutches. Everyone has crutches. Some people, when they are anxious, they journal. Some people, when they are sad, they binge on Netflix. When some people are frustrated, they reach out to friends. When some people are insecure, they lash out. Some crutches come with more benefits and less negatives, like journaling over lashing out. You are not a bad person for having crutches that maybe aren't as healthy. But in saying that, the impact of learning to move towards healthy crutches is life-changing. In the book, Buy Yourself the Lilies by Tara Schuster, I can't cuss on YouTube, she talks about finding your crutch and writing down why it's not good for you on a post-it note and sticking that post-it note all around your home. So things like, staying at work too much exhausts me, drinking too much wine makes me cry. Read and reread these notes until they sink in, and then baby step yourself away from those unhealthy crutches by offering yourself a deal. So if I don't binge watch TV this week, then I get a bubble bath at the end of the week. If I leave the office by 5 p.m. every day, then I'm gonna buy myself that nice candle on Sunday. I'd also argue that you should do the opposite as well. So find the healthy crutches that you want to replace the unhealthy with and talk about why they are good for you. So when I leave the office by 5 p.m, I feel so much more put together the next morning. Or when I do an anxiety meditation, it feels like medicine for my mind. I feel so calm. So to implement this, get really clear on the immediate negative impact of your more unhealthy crutches and get really clear on the immediate positive impact of your healthy crutches. Write those impacts on post-it note or in your Notion or wherever you look regularly, and start to practice them almost like they are affirmations. You want this stuff to sink into your brain. It might take 6 months, it might take a year, but the more that you start leaning towards healthier crutches, the healthier your life in general is going to start looking. Number 3, write down 12 questions. So this is an exercise that I learned about through Tiago Forte's Building a Second Brain course. And Tiago Forte actually learned it from a guy called Richard Feynman, who is a theoretical physicist. Richard was quoted to have said, "You have to keep a dozen of your favorite problems constantly present in your mind, although by and large, they will lay in a dormant state. Every time you hear or read a new trick or a new result, test it against each of your 12 problems to see whether it helps. Every once in a while, there will be a hit." These questions can be your personal problems, so it could be, how can I deepen my relationships? It might be, how can I design my home so that I am more fulfilled? Or they can apply to work or finance problems, like how can I design an Airbnb that fosters intense connection? What are the biggest problems that my audience have? What are the metrics I need to measure to create success? The thing I love about this is that it helps you to watch content with more intention, particularly content like my own. So as you are watching one of my videos, you hear a new piece of advice or an old piece of advice, you can look to your 12 questions and be like, okay, how might I apply this to the problems that I'm working on? Same with if you're reading a book, you're watching a podcast, your content consumption in general will get more intentional, and slowly over the year, you'll see your problems start to disappear, or at least get partially solved as you continue to mull them around in your mind while you listen to content, which you are doing all the time. time. Number 4, figure out what productivity techniques work for your mind. Knowing what productivity techniques work specifically for you gives you almost this toolbox that you can go back to every time you're struggling to get yourself to book your appointments, do your life admin, work on that goal that you've been wanting to work on for a really long time. It's life-changing to be able to figure out how you can get yourself to do the things that you may not feel immediately motivated to do, but you know will be good for you. If you know what you need to do to create momentum, to create motivation, to get yourself to take action, life just becomes easier. I don't actually think that it would take a year to do this. You could set out like a little 3-month plan where you try all of the different productivity tools and see what works best for you. When it comes to getting things done, I'm a big believer in personalizing your planning, your productivity, and figuring out what works for your mind. One thing can work so well for someone that you see on the internet, and meanwhile you're looking at it and you're like, oh, I simply could never. For example, some people thrive when they time block out their entire week ahead. I can't do that. It doesn't work for my mind in this season of my life. But I find that I thrive when I work alongside someone, so a service like FocusMate is perfect for me. But there are people in my life that were like, oh, I could never do that. How would you do that? It's too much. And knowing these things about myself, about what helps me to work and helps me to get things done, drives my days. And make sure that I have the time that I want. Number 5, create all of the lists in my lists to create to change your life video. I love a list. We know that I love a list, but I also use my list. Like, I'm not a chronic list maker that never goes back to my list. I am constantly going back to my lists. Over the years, I've made 4 entire videos about lists to create to change your life. One simple way to change your life over the next year is to watch those videos, create those lists. Of course, the biggest trap with this particular tip is that you will create a bunch of lists under the guise of self-work and then you'll never refer to them again. My suggestion is to make these lists as accessible as possible. What can you do to make them so accessible that it would be hard for you not to revisit them? Watch those videos, sit with that question, create the lists. The 6th way to change your life in a year is to start practicing RAIN regularly. So I recently made a video about how to feel your feelings. It's one of my favorite videos that I've made on my channel in a hot second. And in it, I talk about one of the most impactful things that I've started doing this year, and that is the practice of RAIN. RAIN stands for recognize your feelings, allow how you're feeling without judgment, investigate, so ask where is this coming from, is there an underlying belief here, and nurture yourself with kindness. It's only when you actually start doing this that you start to realize just how many feelings that you have, and it's kind of exhausting, particularly if you have any Enneagram 4 in you. There's something really healing about practicing RAIN, and you can practice RAIN when you are experiencing difficult emotions in the moment, so you're actually dealing with a situation that's causing you to feel some type of way, but you can also do it when hard emotions come up about past experiences, which is something that I find happens to me a lot. And this happens to anyone who tends to hold on to things in their life. I heard somewhere recently that the brain is constantly serving up the unresolved. So your brain is constantly serving up past experiences that you haven't really sat with, that you haven't let yourself feel the feelings for. Maybe you haven't investigated them. There's something that you need to work with there. If you want to dive deeper into this, watch my video on feeling your feelings. I'll have that linked down below. I also did create a massive book guide on my app Intention. I actually combined 3 books that were all about feeling your feelings. So if you're really invested, you're really interested, have a download of my app Intention and you can listen to that there. I also want to say, just to be responsible, that I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist. This advice wouldn't be applicable to trauma, and before applying it, if you have any trauma, go and talk to someone who is qualified. Number 7, schedule in 3 to 5 tasks every week. This is one of the most straightforward pieces of advice that you're going to get in this video, and it's also one that if you do it 100%, there is not a chance that your life will not completely change by the end of the year if you apply this advice. Every single week, look at your vision board, the things that you want to achieve. Look at your short list of goals, and it should be short. Then write down 3 to 5 tasks that you can do that will get you towards those goals. This is most applicable for project-based goals. So buying a house, starting an Etsy store, building your TikTok following. Then you want to schedule those tasks into your calendar. I don't advocate for weekly time blocking in advance, but that's only because I haven't found a way to make it work sustainably for me. However, what I will do is schedule in just 3 to 5 tasks relevant to my goals, and I'll plan the time around those slots maybe on the day. If you want a planner that will help you to do this even more effectively, the Life Map is the planner that you would go to, which is my planner brand. I'm gonna have that link down below, but this is certainly something that you can do without a planner as well. If you liked this video, you are going to love my New Year's prep playlist. It's got a ton of videos focused on New Year resetting, but also just videos that you're going to find inspiring and motivating to watch before the new year rolls around. I appreciate you so very much, and I will see you soon.